Okay, so let me do this first. So we are going to watch this. Poppy Playtime has recently gotten a dev update, according to what this video is, and I don't know what it's about. It just says huge news on the thumbnail, so like, you know, we're just going to press play. I don't know how much we're going to talk through this, but I'm curious to see what this could be about. Maybe I get clickbaited. Maybe we'll click out soon. Who knows?
Recently gotten a ton of news, including new interviews with developers discussing the future of the entire franchise, a huge new update to Chapter 5 that fixes one of the game's biggest complaints, a new music video that reveals some big lore details, a ton of Chapter 5 behind the scenes on what characters and areas were originally supposed to look like, along with a whole lot more. So starting with all of the new behind the scenes, there has been an absolute ton. First off, we got all sorts of Lily Lovebraid's concept art by Katie Stickler. Like this one.
Am I the only one who doesn't care about these concept arts? Like, these are characters that were introduced and killed off so fast. I don't know how they have fan bases. Well, I guess, to be fair, Poppy Playtime has a lot of like younger fan base, even though it's like darker lore and whatever, because it's got this bright, colorful aesthetic to it. So maybe they're just like super stuck on these things.
Here that shows a full turnaround of her design and how she's meant to look from every angle, along with her hair up here. Then there is this concept art with her in her various different outfits, which, while not ever worn by her in the physical game, do appear in the way of her cardboard cutouts, which is pretty neat. Plus, in this piece, we get to see her various facial expressions, like when she's irritated, neutral, sad, and everything in between. Moving on, Whitney here showed off some concept art for the prototype that was apparently created all the way back in Chapter 2, showing a couple simple designs of his hand, but most importantly, in this image, we get to see that the hand was originally going to have some kind of destroyed jester glove on it, and we could see that his toy or full body version was originally going to be some kind of Jack-in-the-Box toy, which is absolutely insane to see.
Wait, did he not start off like that? How? There's no way they gave him legs to start off. I assume he started off as that kind of toy and then assimilated into what he is today.
Knowing what the prototype would end up looking like today. We also got a few behind the scenes from Malachi, including one of an old jump scare for the prototype, where he'd grab the player and immediately stab them in the head, which I personally like a whole lot more than
so much better than... What the fuck? What? Oh my god, that's so much better.
Immediately stab them in the head, which I personally like a whole lot more than the final one. Not that...
Was he fucking give us a kiss? What the... What?
Final one has anything wrong with it.
No, the final one has so much wrong with it. This is 10 times better. Every time he kills something throughout the game, whether it's catnap or another, or kissy or huggy, it's the claw. This is a way better jump scare.
Looks even better. He also showed off this behind the scenes look of the Huggy entrance sequence that lets us see it without all of the shadows and coloring and everything. Similar to this video he released that shows some behind the scenes of the Huggy vent collapse cutscene. Then finally here he showed off the animation of the hazmat guy inside of the Huggy dream sequence.
They should have showed the animation where that guy's standing there. Stop, Huggy. Don't do it. You're scaring me.
All of which looks really cool from this perspective. Next, the 3D animator Kimberly Town showed off a ton of sketches of different characters in the chapter and how they were supposed to move. I won't go over all of them because there's a ton, but she showed off multiple of these artworks for Giblet, Chum Chompkins, and Lily Lovebraids, so pretty neat. She also interestingly showed off a behind the scenes look at the entire train wreck sequence from the ending of Chapter 5.
Wait, does Giblet not have like a crazy name? They got Chum Chompkins, Lily Lovebraids, one of the Gassy Giblet.
From the crashing of the train to the prototype coming out and stabbing us, dropping us into the poppy gel,
good old Gassy Giblet.
Giblet reviving us.
Oh, Gassy Giblet, what's up?
Another cool look at this stuff that we don't usually get to see. Next here, we got some behind the scenes from the artist Taylor who designed Chum Chompkins. First giving us a few in-depth looks at Chum's final design that looks pretty neat, but isn't really anything new. However, what I found the most interesting is that here she actually showed off an early design design of Chum where he looked a lot different. In this design, he has a standalone mouth instead of the one on his belly, a Huggy Wuggy bow tie around his neck, and he was even planned to be a wrong side out toy as well, which would have looked absolutely horrific in a good way. Although I do like the cuter, more derpy Chum that we got in the final game.
Most definitely.
So I think they made the right choice. Next, Sunny Lee gave
most
us
definitely the right
some
choice.
Super cool concept art for Chapter 5. First, showing off here what the original design for the bed with the Miss Gracie skeleton that we opened in Lily Lovebraids' dollhouse was going to look like, with various different designs that they chose from. And we got some more in-depth art of the skeleton in this concept art here. Furthermore, in this piece of art, we get to see a concept of what Lily Lovebraids' dollhouse was going to look like from the outside. And while we do technically see the house in the game, it has a full model and everything, we never really get a good look at it in the physical title. So I wish there was more of a focus put on this area because it looks quite nice. Here we get some concept art of what looks like the Huggy Sneak area with the projected screen rooms. That looks pretty neat. Here we get some concept art of the train in reanimation. While here we got this concept art of Bron making his triumphant return.
This is just insane. This is so fucked in so many ways.
Showing that the room
I love this art. I will say that.
Originally going to look slightly different, although the most notable thing I see here is definitely right here where we could see a Huggy Wuggy plush turned wrong side out. That is frankly downright disturbing, and I don't believe we ever see this in the game, but if not, I would have loved for this to have happened because that's some pretty chilling stuff. Next, in this art by Alan, we get to see the quote-unquote stitchery room, which is that one puzzle room towards the end of the game with all of the Outimals laying on these machines, if you don't remember. That at this point in development looks to be much smaller, and it also appears Chum and Giblet were supposed to be inside of it, while neither of them are there in the final game. Furthermore, we get a concept art of just the machine itself here, and get to see these quote-unquote surgery beds and how they'd work in the games as well. They also showed us a 3D model of an early version of this room here.
Dude, everything just hanging on hooks. It's so bugged.
Next, again from Whitney, they actually found some super old concept art that was originally meant for Playcare in Chapter 3 here that displays what appears to be an almost paradise-esque tunnel with the train and a pond and a rainbow arching over the top, which is shockingly very different from the Playcare that we ended up getting in the final version. I personally like the final a bit more, but this is still super cool to see, especially since somebody pointed out that in the files of Project Playtime, there was a room that looked almost identical to this here, and she confirmed that the idea was planned to be used in Project Playtime, so that would have been insane. But
yeah, the Chapter 3 they had was way better. Way better.
There's also been a bunch of other various updates, like that another Wrong Side Out music video was released, this time by Mob Entertainment, with an entirely different set of animations.
We reacted to that on the main channel. Go check it out. Go check it out.
That reveal a couple of interesting things. Like, for one, we get to see the prototype putting Poppy inside of her case. There's even some like CCTV footage of it. We could see that he was the one that drew the flower we go and find in Chapter 1, which doesn't really make that much sense because we see the flower in the orientation notebook that was made before the Hour of Joy. So I don't know what's going on there. We see this room that I believe is completely new, where the prototype with angel wings painted behind him was able to talk to all of the other experiments, possibly somewhere for Chapter 6.
I didn't even notice. I was too busy looking at his design. I didn't notice there was angel wings.
Experiments, possibly.
Dude, that is crazy. That's so, dude, that video was amazing. I was blown away by that, by the CGI, by the animations.
For Chapter 6. And here we get to see a shot of what looks like 1006 in a room filled with the orphans that he was holding onto, which, if true, looks absolutely insane. I haven't gotten to dig too deep into the music video, so maybe it hides even more secrets, but let me know if you'd like to see a breakdown or something like that in the comments below. Mob also launched a pop-up shop in Japan for Chapter 5, where we actually we do get a couple cool new things related to the chapter. Like here, we got some new cardboard cutout art of Giblet and Chum Chompkins and Lily Lovebraids. While something cool that they do every year is they let people put up stickers to vote on their favorite character from a given chapter, where they confirm the names of the two Automals seen in the
Ragbag
chapter.
and Gutter Plush.
Ragbag being the
and
smiling
Grumpy Guts
one, and Gutter Plush being whatever this thing is meant to be. So now that is confirmed. I don't know why that's their names, but I guess we know now. But now moving on to some bigger news, Chapter 5 got a couple of updates that fix a lot of huge issues. I've already covered patches 1 and 2.
I don't know if I care about patches. I don't give a fuck about patches.
Or the original version of this chase kind of just set us up to be confused.
Wait.
At the moment, or the changes made to the
Maybe I do care. Maybe I do care.
As a lot of people complained that the original version of this chase kind of just set us up to be confused and get jump scared a lot, which frustrated people quite a bit. However, playing the game now, they did fix a lot of these issues. As for one, when going up the stairs where Lily would originally run through the door and jump scare us, the game now slows the player's movement down as she runs out, so we don't just run into her and actually get to see her come out, so we know to turn around. They also removed the green hand button on the tuba during the chase that was left over from a previous puzzle, because it confused a lot of players into thinking they needed to.
This is where we half-rated MLMs, and she was like 5 attempts into doing that green thing. I didn't even see it, but
they didn't. There's also
I didn't realize it's such a big of an issue.
That there's been changes to the cinematic scenes and the game's lighting, although I haven't gone back to fully replay anything at the moment. So if there's anything like that you noticed, let me know in the comments below. Next, the developers, specifically George Christic, did a couple interviews before the release of Chapter 5, talking about the game and, more interestingly, the future of the franchise after Chapter 5.
You tell me how many chapters there are, buddy.
In an interview with DualShockers, George was asked, in terms of the future, does Poppy Playtime have future chapters mapped out and an eventual end roughly planned, or are you trying to keep it as open-endable to be expanded indefinitely as possible? And he responded saying, we have a long-term vision for where the story is heading. We know the emotional destination. At the same time, we try to not make the roadmap so rigid that it can't breathe. The world has grown alongside the community.
What do you mean the world has grown? They are down to the Earth's core. They're running out of world to use. They're squeezing the last little bit of life out of it that they possibly can.
Want to honor that growth while still working towards a satisfying conclusion, which I've seen some people use to suggest that there will in fact be more chapters after Chapter 6.
That's crazy.
Although, in my opinion, I feel like this is more referencing how we learned in Chapter 5.
Yo, what's up, Ragin?
There was multiple locations outside of the base factory, and so I think that's where the story will go afterwards. A little bit more interestingly, in an interview with games industry, George answers a little bit more. For instance, a super good question he was asked was about how much of the terror of Poppy Playtime was hiding inside of the lore off screen. And George told us that, like we know, there are a ton of lore drops in VHS tapes and audios and notes, which, while this was actually a big criticism of Chapter 5, since most of the explanations for why things exist aren't shown in the game unless you look for the deep secret lore, he actually said here that this wasn't a mistake and was instead an intentional design choice, because something that I always struggled with in the past with some of these other IPs is how they would literally stop the game, stop the action, and then you would have this long cinematic that you could not skip. And
so instead, we put multiple puzzles back to back to back that just waste your time and have 1,000 different ingredients to what makes it the puzzle a puzzle.
It would just lure at you. Sometimes when you're in the flow of a game, you don't want the decision to be taken out of your hands. I'll come back and watch that wonderful cutscene that you spent 50 million on later, but right now I need to die to the same chase 6 more times before I can realize what I'm supposed to do, because the chase was sloppy and poorly designed. Yeah, dude, this is what I'm saying. This is somebody who doesn't know how to weave in story while also making things like very big. And I will say, I mean, this is a huge difference, right? Because $70 AAA game versus Poppy Playtime $20. But Resident Evil Requiem
has the moment at the end. Spoilers for those who have not seen Resident Evil Requiem or played the game. But towards the end, we get our new addition to the crew, which is Zeno, who is now, as we know, a Wesker clone. But they don't outright say it. They don't have to outright say it. You figure these things out later on. So it's like, I mean, there's ways to do little toss-ins there. Like I said, when the prototype grabs Poppy and like breaks her head, all he has to do is say sister. And then boom, we know so much off of one word. Like the reason he crushed her head is he just says sister, and it's like boom, that's everything we need to know. We know exactly where he comes from. We know who he's related to. We know all the details that we can get from other things as well. It's just crazy. Poppy Playtime is almost 100 AUD now. Oh, in total, I forget. There's multiple chapters now, huh? Well, I don't forget that, but I know there's multiple chapters. So you have to buy them all. And does it even come up to what is the total playtime? Chapter 1's like 30 minutes. Chapter 2 is maybe an hour and a half, couple hours. Chapter 3, about 3.5 hours. We're approaching just about 12 hours, I would say, for about 100 AUD, which would be just as much as a AAA game. So it's like they'd never played their own game, something like that. John was pissed about all the lore notes he had to read out loud for us. When you're pissing off the lore guys, then you know you did something right. And that's one of my things I'll do whenever I have these ideas in my head like this. I would go to the lore people. For when I thought Wesker, or when I thought Xeno was Wesker, I went to the lore people, and they thought the same thing as well. So I was like, okay, just making sure I'm not crazy, because these are the people who spend hours and hours looking at these games. They're going to know some things, and if I think the same way that they think, then I'm on probably somewhat of the right page. 14 hours if you take your time. 14 hours. I don't think anywhere near that, right? What is my YouTube? I want to check with my YouTube thing. I'm not worried about it. We're just going to move on.
To the next level. Which, despite this being released before any of the Chapter 5 drama, I think this is a great explanation for the lore being more tucked away. And to be honest,
not a great explanation.
This is a good thing. If you watched
this guy's is he a Poppy Playtime glazer? Is that all it is? Is this what he does? Street Rampage? I think he's just a glazer, is he not? I don't know. It just seems like
through for Chapter 5, you might have noticed that I skipped pretty much every lore note and VHS tape I found, because for me, I like to revisit the lore later, but would rather just play the chapter uninterrupted.
It's so easy to wait. We're getting cutscenes anyways. We're just getting cutscene anyways. All you have to do is it's not like they had no cutscenes. There was still a fuck ton of cutscenes. It's not hard to weave in some lore.
So maybe
he's one of the people who gets the game early. Oh, he just okay. This is his whole opinion is just wrong.
Entertainment. Specifically, they asked if the movie was going to be animated or live action, to which George said, "We don't know yet. It's really early days."
You cannot have this game be live action.
Having worked on adaptations in the past, Legendary have been amazing partners. They really understand the IP. They really care, and it's kind of unique, at least in my experience, that you have partners who are shoulder to shoulder with you on an IP, and they also understand horror. We don't have to lead them by the hand, so it's been wonderful. And then we also have a deal with Scholastic for some print publications. We already have a guidebook that's out now, referencing the orientation notebook, but we're looking forward to publishing more things with them, seemingly confirming, for one, that they actually don't know if the movie will be live action or not, even though I thought they've said in the past that it would be, so who knows, and that there are apparently going to be more books with Scholastic coming in the future, which I am actually pretty excited for, since there was supposed to be a young adult novel released this year for the game that ultimately got canceled. Then George was asked once again about the future of Poppy Playtime, where he said, "We are trying to plan as far in advance as we possibly can. Obviously, we have a small team and we are an indie studio, so we don't have the luxury of some other IPs, but we do like to see down the road a bit, and I think that is critical for any horror expression or any genre expression. We've seen in the past with certain IPs where they clearly didn't know where they were going, and sometimes they rushed it, and sometimes they didn't have a clean answer. So we're trying to avoid all that. We're asking a lot."
This is a lot of a nothing question. They're taking the FNAF route with books full of lore. I would say the difference is the style of game. Like this one, they can fit way more lore in the actual game, whereas FNAF, like it's kind of hard to fit the lore in whatever else. So FNAF books exist too. This is true, but the difference. I mean, FNAF lore by no means is. We all know it's messy, so it's not like it's this perfect fucking thing of of an angel where we have to be like, oh, look how great FNAF is. FNAF 4 is just, it's a mess. But the game style doesn't allow it to tell lore as easily as Poppy Playtime does. In the same way where if you're playing solitaire, you can't get a story out of that. Like if I use a bunch of cards, I mean, I guess that's probably a bad analogy, but like the style of game that you're playing really affects how you can deliver lore. So there are 3 FNAF timelines that are all canon. Yeah, that's what I'm saying. FNAF is not exactly the epitome of what good lore is. Animated might cut off a lot of audience opportunity. I would say so, yeah, but certain things like anime adaptations, like they're very hard to do in live action. And I imagine Poppy Playtime, especially with the hands and the physics of stuff like that, be kind of difficult. But, you know, I don't know. It's all over the place.
Questions early, so then our devs know where they're building. So that's another very interesting update about the game and its future. And it sounds like the developers...
It sounds like they got like 3 more chapters in mind.
Taking the game.
It does not sound like they're confident at all. It sounds like none of those answers... Okay, this guy's crazy. None of those answers scream confidence. They say, some people mess up, some people do good. We're small, we're trying to do good, so we're taking our time to not mess up. That's all they said. It's not like, oh yeah, we know exactly what we're doing. We have this chapters, this... Like, this is a nothing answer. It is another. Do you want a job? Yeah, I'd like a job. I think I could do good at the job, but I also think I could do bad at the job. And I'm trying not to do bad at the job because I want to do good at the job so I can have the job. Like, what? The hands has to be animated? Pretty much. CGI budget better be more than $10 like modern movies. How about, I think we've seen some pretty good CGI stuff lately. I can't think off the top of my head.
Supposedly already having expanded the lore far beyond what we've seen so far. So hopefully this is a good sign for Chapter 6 and the future of the franchise.
No, they're kind of milking it. All right, it is a whatever video. I wanted to see what was going on, but this is just somebody who's doing PR for Poppy Playtime. It is what it is. I mean, either way, I'm going to criticize stuff like this anyways. It's kind of probably bad because I'm leeching off of somebody else's content and criticizing their shit. But it's pretty obvious that like there's no actual intention to talk about things from an actual perspective of what this game should be talked about. Like there is fun. This game, for the record, the game has its fun moments. We have fun doing these things, but it's mostly because like we're fucking around, chat's tossing jokes out there, doing things. But it does have its obvious problems, and at least they address that with a chase. I think it's kind of a weird thing to do with the chase sequence for the patch notes, but at least they've addressed some part of that. So, I mean, it is at least something. I will give them that. But to say like they have good answers and whatnot, they very clearly don't know what they're doing, and that's okay. They're an indie company, but to spin it off as like, oh, they're confident, it doesn't work that way. I don't know why it's so hard to sometimes say like yeah, these people they're not quite there yet, but they're trying their best. Like that's okay. But I mean, it is what it is. That's it for that one. I was curious what the dev update is, and well, we got it. I haven't seen a game this critiqued in a long while. Yeah, I think like I said, like I think Markiplier put it best. Once you have 5 games that are out, you know, you expect the 5th one to be a little more polished instead of going progressively worse. I forgot how bad 4 was, if I'm being honest with you, but I forgot also the boss fight was pretty bad. But I think they're scraping the bottom of the barrel to try and get lore out of this. I don't know how they're saying that it's going to be anything like. I don't know. I don't know what they're doing with it. I just know it. I don't know. I don't think they're as confident as that video was making it out to seem. So